of deal. I'm not like Tom and Walter to let you talk all night. Okay, Jared, you're up.
Well, it is the junior high pool safety plan. I'm going to hand it over to either Mr. Vukovic to kind of start us off, or Dr. Minnick and Mr. Edmondson are also on the meeting here today, and they will get into the nuts and bolts of the safety plan.
Thanks, Mr. Cronar. I'll turn it over to the middle school here in a second. Madam Vice President and the rest of the committee, what we're asking for tonight is to review the plan with you, but make it clear to the committee, because I know being concise is important to you. Make it clear to the committee to realize that we don't need to use the pool until the second or third 9 weeks for all regular students. What they're looking at doing, starting immediately, is using for the kids who are in life skills or autistic classroom. Those kids have it embedded in their IEPs. So I think we did two things tonight. One, more review the plan, but two, we wanted to make sure that it was understood by the committee. The sense of urgency as far as using it immediately for all kids is not the case. That would not be used until the second or third 9 weeks. What would happen immediately, pending the board's support approval, would be the use of the pool for those kids who are in the life skills classroom, which is about 8 to 9 kids. The plan was revamped, redeveloped with the support of feedback from Uta, Ms. Cinda. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Edmondson and Dr. Minnick.
Thanks, Mr. Vukovic. In the name of being concise, Mr. Vukovic is exactly correct. We typically run the pool for the bulk of our student population for 2 quarters, typically the second and third quarter of the school year, because this has been such an important topic with a variety of logistical challenges. We stepped back last week and said, we really don't have to open this right now as part of our health and phys ed curriculum. We can push it back to the second semester. So we would recommend opening the pool for the third and fourth quarters for the bulk of our student population. And who knows what's going to change between now and then with all of the restrictions and so forth. But it would also provide us more time to do a test run with certain elements of the plan, such as using the shower that is built in the pool area with a smaller group. Mr. Vukovic alluded to students that have adapted PE built into their IEP would be our small group. At this point in time, that would mean 9 students. The locker room would not be a factor because we can have those students change in a private restroom setting that's located just a few meters from the entrance to the pool. So the locker room would become a non-factor for exercising the pool right now, and we would maintain compliance with IEPs without having a locker room issue.
Mike, let me ask, Mike, can I just cut in for a second? Do you have anything for us to look at, like a plan? The plan that we sent over last week just didn't seem to cover what we needed to. So do you have something new drafted?
We do have a plan drafted. Mr. Vukovic and I were sharing a plan that we initially had, a plan that we adjusted in light of this recommendation. I can pull it up. Let me.
Okay. Stephanie, we're going to have to get to your question in a minute. I'm not going to get to costs yet, but so we do have a question from Stephanie, but I'll call for questions in a little bit. Everybody's texting me. Okay. Now, so you'll put that up. If we don't have to do this immediately and you want to do a test run, that's fine, but we still need a plan and it has to adhere with our safety plan. I think the sense of the board that I have could be wrong. And people can speak for themselves tonight, is that all of us want to figure out how to be able to offer swimming. If there's a problem that at the junior high, if there's a problem that a student doesn't want to swim or can't swim or has a problem with it, then we should have an opt-out that's relatively simple to do and provide them with another physical activity. So I think that's sort of where I think the board is. When it comes to these lifeguards, we had a contract on the table at one point about hiring lifeguards with the YMCA. I don't think a delay would jeopardize their logistics, would it, Mike? Vukovic? Or
No,
Mr.
ma'am, we serve at the pleasure of the board. Whatever the board would decide to allow it to do, we can happen. We may be out of compliance with some IPs, but delay it 2 weeks if the board so chooses.
Okay, so that's, and if anybody checked with the Y to make sure they've still got guards available, we don't need their guards flying off on us.
I believe there's. Yes, ma'am.
I'm mistaken. I think because I have because I'm joining as a guest in this meeting, I'm not able to share my tab. So I'm going to ask. I apologize for the delay. Is there a way that if I shared this this plan with Mr. O'Neill, can he pull it up a tab for everybody to see? I apologize. I thought I was going to be able to pull this. I can present now. Okay. Randy, I'm going to the typical 3 dots to go to present mode, and it's not giving me that option. I apologize, everybody. This is
Okay, well, let's try not to. Can you read it to us? I mean, I don't know how long this is, and I don't want to get into a long debate about whether your plan is ready yet. We do know that it has to conform with the health and safety plan. And I don't think anybody wants to get real down in the weeds about where we put our gym bags and things like that, but you certainly have to make sure that's covered in the plan. Make sure that it is.
I can share it with Mr. Vukovic, and then he can in turn share it with you if you like, and I can read it while that's happening. If you tell me how you'd like me to proceed.
How long is it?
There are
Julia,
16
Go ahead,
16
Mike.
bullet points.
excuse me.
No, that's too long. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead, Tom. Quickly.
Let them share it with each other and come back to this when they finally get in the right spot.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I want to poll the board quickly, but my concern is that number one, this plan must dovetail accurately with our own general safety plan, period. And there has to be a way that, because swimming is a little bit more complicated and it involves changing their clothes and maybe showering, that cleaning, everything is addressed. The other thing is that I think that it would be wise to have a sensible opt-out for parents who don't choose to do this with their kids. And then we have to figure out how many numbers we have of students. But I don't think that there's a sense of the board that we don't want to use this pool or make this wonderful pool opportunity available to our students who are able to do it. So am I being clear? Does anybody from the board have anything to say about this if we delay 2 more weeks? So let's start with Cinda. Do you have a comment, Cinda?
Yes, I think you're right about everything, except that I don't think that we should even bother trying to think about using the showers. It's enough of a logistical nightmare to make sure that they're changing okay and that their masks are stored safely when they're in the pool so that when they get out, they don't get wet and all of those things. And it's going to take some real diligence on the part of the faculty to make sure that the safety regulations are followed so that it can be done safely. If it's not done safely, I'm not for doing it at all.
Okay, that's clear.
That being said, Julia, I would like to add to the graduation requirements that every kid leaving our district has to know how to swim. So I'm not against swimming. I'm just very concerned about swimming during COVID and what I see as a tendency for people to be lax and want to hurry through safety precautions.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the main thing is that that parents have an opportunity, just like they do any other thing we're doing, to look at this and say, is this what I want my student doing during a pandemic? So if they don't, and I don't think that should have to be an elaborate excuse or anything like that. We have to make this convenient for parents and students as much as possible while still offering the product. Yeah, I've said at the last meeting, Cinda, that I didn't really want to support this unless we do have a serious discussion with Eric Neal at the YMCA about how we can develop a better swimming program in the 3rd or 4th grade. We used to do that and it worked beautifully. And, there's a lot of reasons it was canceled, but I don't think any of them suffice anymore, probably. Okay, Uta, do you have any comments about this situation?
No, I think we need to make sure we can do it safely and that we're consistent. I do understand the need for the life skills students who have this adaptive PE as part of their IEPs, that it's a service that we definitely need to provide and possibly need to provide before the third and fourth quarter. But safety has got to drive how we do anything.
Okay, no arguments from me. Tom?
We've been talking about this for over a month now. I'm disappointed that the board doesn't feel like we have a safety plan in place. I suspect that when Mike finally gets the dang thing posted, that it'll be pretty close to what we're going to be needing. It doesn't make any sense that we keep beating this horse without this plan in front of us. So,
Tom, people aren't comfortable voting on a safety plan when we haven't seen it.
No, Uta, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that we should be voting on it when we haven't seen it. I'm frustrated that it's been a month and we still haven't seen it. It hasn't gone in front of your committee. It hasn't gone in front of my committee. We didn't get it before this board meeting. For God's sakes, this is not the most serious thing we have dealing with, yet we can't actually get the dang plan. So I'm agreeing with you, but I'm also expressing my frustration that we can't move it forward today.
So Tom, are you comfortable that in 2 weeks' time, we'll be able to put the motion for the Mike Vukovich will have this ready for us, and Mike Minnick and Mr. Edmondson will have this ready for us, that we've got a plan that we can review in advance, the safety and procedure plan, and the lifeguards, and that we're going to have lifeguards after we vote, because we're talking about a 2-week delay.
Yeah,
Are you comfortable?
The lifeguards, the contract is for an hourly rate for the lifeguards. I'm not sure that makes any difference. Off we go. But we got to have this plan so the board can get 9 votes together on it. So I'm frustrated. We've been talking about it. We talked about it.
We've been talking.
We talked about the board. We're talking 2 weeks later. We're talking to you.
Well, I'm trying to bring some closure to this so that we've got a plan for the board moving forward. Barb Barker, would you like to tune in, please?
Sure. I have a bunch of questions. I doubt that I don't see Greg on the line. So somebody might want to write these down. First, is there already water in the pool?
There is, Ms.
Yes.
Barker.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
It looks like the pool was filled up. Okay. Second, cost-wise, since this is Finance Committee, when we do look at costs over the 9 students with the adapted PE, it's nice to see where that stands. And so we have testing of water, the lifeguard. I guess the water was already put in the pool, so we would have assumed that cost. The chemicals that's put in the pool, the electric. The other question I had, and this was in the safety plan, it said we'll use the maximum filter that we can for the ventilator in the locker room. The ventilation system, I believe is MERV or MARV. I am curious to know what rating that filter is, because the locker room is a very dangerous place. As the students go in, they're wet. They'll be changing. That there's going to be mask failure. There's going to be congregating of students. It's a very rushed process. So I know it says in stage plan the janitors will fog the locker rooms, clean the locker rooms. Will that happen between classes in the 3 minutes, or will it happen just at the end of the day? So I'd like to know the filter rating on that ventilator, ventilation system in the locker room, what it looks like, the safety plan for the custodian that's going to be cleaning, if it will be after each class.
So Barb, what you're asking for is a pool budget?
A pool budget and some information on, so the COVID-19 is airborne. And while chlorine in pool water kills most coronaviruses, there aren't really studies to say, well, it does kill COVID, but chlorine is quite potent and it probably should be no worries, but COVID-19 is airborne, and you're going to put 10 to 20 students in a pool without a mask, and they will be in the air potentially spewing virus particles, aerosols in their breath, and you're going to have a teacher putting his life on the line potentially, and a lifeguard. And then those students will be going into the locker room and they will be changing. And I want to know if our ventilation systems, how, scientifically, how they're going to pull up and protect our teacher, any staff, because lives are at risk. And for me, safety is number one. So while finances, yes, that's good to see the numbers. If we can't make sure this is safe, it is not worth risking, any student or any staff member. And our students are not guinea pigs to see whether or not we can make this work. We have to have a concrete plan put in place for safety. I mean, just one person having long-term complications or somebody dying, that's on our plate, and I will not risk that.
Excellent. Okay, I hear you. No, I think all of your points are well taken. My question, though, is logistically, Mr. Vukovic and Mr. Kerr, when is our next Buildings and Grounds meeting scheduled? Because it seems to me that you're going to have to bring in one of your technicians to explain. And probably, I don't know that we can reinvent the wheel in 2 weeks. I would think that Eric Neal is a great resource out at the YMCA to talk to us a little bit about what level of risk we're taking. Mike Vukovic, do you want to address that, please?
Buildings and Grounds will not meet again until the 3rd week of October. So if the board so chooses, we can have it ready, not for the first meeting in October, but for the 2nd.
Okay, when's our next board meeting so we can vote?
We'll have 2 board meetings, October 12th and October 26th.
So what meeting are we talking about?
It depends. If the board would like us to go through the academic committee meeting, we could be ready on October 12th. Or if the board wants us to go through Buildings and Grounds, we would be ready on October 26th.
Okay. Are either of those, are you opposed to waiting to the 26th if that has to be done?
I absolutely am.
Okay, well, hold on. Let me ask Mike. Are you opposed, Mike Vukovic?
Madam Vice President, I'll do as I'm told. I think the board just has to decide what they're comfortable with, and they have the safety plan. Ms. Barker was citing the safety plan during this call. We worked on the revision. I also just emailed the most updated version, so I can definitely wait, or I could do whatever the board wants to do.
Well, to what extent can you expedite with another committee so that her questions are at least addressed? It doesn't mean that we're going to have all the answers for, because she's asking complex questions that deserve an answer, but there may not be an answer in the universe right now to these questions to the degree that she feels safe.
What I could do, okay, Ms. Barker, what I could do is I can have Mr. Trout call her and address those questions and concerns a little bit more in depth, so I don't misrepresent them. And if I feel comfortable, I'll bring it next week. If not, we can wait till Buildings and Ground, whatever the board decides or feels comfortable with.
Mike, this is an academic question, and it certainly would fit under the next Monday's academic meeting. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't bring it to the academic committee. The project procedures and PE is part of academics.
All right. So hold on. Terry Kerr, do you have a problem with that idea? I think you're on, Terry.
No, I don't have a problem with that. Mr. Trout, he's covered some of that stuff that Barb was talking about, and Dr. Minnick did also, as far as the number of students that would be in the poll and stuff. So some of that stuff's already been discussed at some of these meetings.
Okay, so Mike Vukovic, do you think, and Mike Minnick and Mr. Edmondson, do you think we can get this worked out so that you have some sort of a report for us to look at a week from tonight? Seems to me sufficient time.
Yes, Madam Vice President, if that's what the board so chooses, we can do that. You have a copy of the plan I resent to your email, and then I'll have Mr. Chow call Ms. Barker, go through a series of her questions, and we can report back out on Monday, Madam Vice President.
And then Barb, can you be at that meeting Monday so that you can ask follow-up questions if you want to?
I'm not 100% sure.
Please try.
Yes. I have one other comment too, and this is something to think about, is that because we are hybrid and A to L goes Monday, Tuesday, and M to Z goes Thursday, Friday, and the junior high runs on a 6-day schedule, when you calculate it up, how many times the kids could actually go swimming, it's a maximum. This is in that quarter, every single day they get in that pool is a maximum of only 9 days. So it's something to think about, that you think, oh, well, they're going to have a large curriculum and be able to really learn, but it's only really 9 days of 20 to 25 minutes in the pool of curriculum.
Yeah, I understand that. I certainly, Barb, am not going to make the argument that this is the ideal program and the ideal swimming pool. I mean, I'm not trying, but this year to try to offer students who want to get their feet wet and who love water and who want to try this, I just think we're trying to put something together. But certainly it has to be safe. And as I keep saying, it has to interface, dovetail perfectly pretty much with our safety plan. Masks and all the rest of it. No cutting corners for the phys ed people, and not that I think that they do. Tammy Blank, we haven't heard from you. Do you have any insights into this? Is she on? I thought I saw her name. Tammy?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. Do you have any comments to make about this moving forward? The idea would be that on Monday we'll have a report that to try to answer Barb's questions, and we'll try to get this voted on.
Yeah, I mind getting the kids in the pool, and then Barb pointed out that there's only going to be 9 days. I'm really not going to be able to vote for it next week because I'm probably going to be laid up from the surgery. So, if it's only they're only having 9 days, then I say don't bother. But that's, if it was anything else, I'd say go for it.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry to hear about surgery. Okay. Yeah, you did tell us that. So we'll certainly be thinking about you, Tammy, and wishing you the best. So Mike Vukovic and Mr. Minnick and Mr. Edmondson, let's still try to aim for this coming Monday night, please, with Tom Harley's committee.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I understand, we don't want now I think you all should keep in mind that we don't want the perfect to be the enemy of the good, but this is a high risk thing. And we want to be careful because these just from my experience of kids on swim team for years and myself on swim teams, you pick up everything in these natatoriums, so we do have to be careful. It's like every swim team parent goes around with a cold all winter. So now Barb's saying I would like to survey parents. I couldn't read the rest of it, but let's just take this one step at a time and not leap over the horse too fast. Let's just try to see what we can get Monday night, and hopefully we'll be able to take it to a vote.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Cinda.
Yeah, so with the concerns about how much time the students are actually going to be able to be in the pool, I hadn't realized that it was that little time. That's a very short length of time. And considering the amount of money that will be spent on all the things that Barbara was talking about, I want kids to swim, but this might not be the year to just push it. We might need to be thinking about making other activities available for those students instead of just rushing headlong and being so strongly set on using the pool. It just might be the way it is this year.
It may be, but we have to see options. It's not the role of the board to micromanage the process. It's the role of the administration to do that in conjunction with the faculty. And I'm not saying you're trying to micromanage it, but we've got to but this is not the biggest issue in front of us. And we need to, I'm just putting this into finance committee in a hurry. So we move this along as best we can. I agree with Bob Parker that we need a pool budget. The YMCA, when I was on the board, the swimming pools are not toys. They are expensive pieces of equipment. So we have to watch our costs on it. And so Mike, I think you and Mike Minnick and Mr. Edmondson have your work cut out for you to try to put together a comprehensive plan with some bells and whistles on it and some options. We may not be able to do it, but let's try, because I do know I have heard from some parents who really want their students to swim. And we've invested in this pool. Let's try to do it without any guarantees. Mike,
Yes,
does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am, we can do that. Yes, ma'am. We'll work on it.
Okay, anybody else have any really pertinent questions? I know Stephanie Josefovich asked a question. Stephanie, I'll give you a few seconds if you want to reiterate.
I'd like to make some comments too.
Yeah, go ahead, Terry.
I didn't get a chance. One is, I'm guessing you guys already know whether there is an option.
All kinds of other good programs.
Terry, go ahead. please.
Yeah, I'm guessing that Dr. Minnick or Mike Vukovic already knows whether there is an option to opt out, or Mr. Edmondson. But I think I'd like to know that sooner than later. And then I think Barb's idea of a survey to make sure parents are going to send their students to the swim classes is important. I think also it'd be maybe good to reach out to IUP and the Y and see what they're doing, or other school districts or whatever, and see how they're handling this. But I also want this to be successful. I think there's more of a chance of losing someone to drowning than there is to the COVID. So I think you have to weigh the risks, and I think it's very important that our students do learn how to swim. And I think even 9 times, that's a larger number than what I was even thinking it would be. So that's all. Thanks, Julie.
Yeah, thanks, Terry. Yeah, I agree. I think that 9 times is not so bad when it comes to, because swimming can hit you really quickly. You learn it, the brain tunes in on it. But just as before we get off this, Mike, Marion Centers School District has a beautiful swimming pool. And I know the Y is open to showering now for the swim team, for the Y swim team. So somebody has figured out the answers to these questions. And I know the National Y would be very onto this.
Yes, Madam Vice President.
Okay, very good. Okay, can we move on? Anybody, if you have something to ask now or forever hold your peace until next Monday night? Okay, we're going to go to the 1920 preliminary final numbers. Jared, please.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I did send ahead of time on Friday to the committee the budget projection. I don't have it to pull up only because the numbers are already so small. Trying to follow them on this screen, I just didn't think would be very effective. So that's why I sent it ahead to the committee. I will post it after we discuss it here for anybody in the public who would like to see it after our discussion tonight. We'll post it along with the agenda. But really just wanted to highlight, we are in the process of, we're getting pretty close to closing out the 1920 school year, which was the preceding school year to the one we're in right now. So we've been working through closing out those numbers over the past couple months, and we're getting close. There are still some delays in getting some bills from other school districts who are delayed in getting their stuff out. Our year-end reconciliations with our cyber schools are coming in slower than normal. And I understand everybody's had some, different reasons across the last couple months as to why things are moving slow. I'm hoping probably in another week to kind of cut everything off and say that's it. That's all the more we can book or towards 1920, because we have to reach that point. So probably by the end of this week, we're just going to shut everything off. But I did want to share with the board the preliminary numbers because I don't feel that they're going to change a whole lot from where they're at right now. But just in a summary overall, we ended the year in the positive for 1920, or we're looking to end the year in the positive. Right now, the number sits at, $1,465,000. Nowhere near to where we were budgeting at the beginning of 1920. COVID-19, nobody saw that coming at the beginning of the school year. And though it may have been, it was certainly hard on the district, it did help for the last couple months of last school year. The district did save some significant money during the pandemic on multiple levels. But I just kind of wanted to go through and highlight some of the kind of significant things that to me, were a little bit of a surprise as to how we ended the year with COVID-19 really affecting us the last 3 months. And I did on the summary that I sent the board highlight some different areas in orange on the spreadsheets that I sent you. And like I said, I'm just going to touch, briefly here. We can certainly go into it more after we go and the audit's complete and the numbers are final. I don't expect them to change a whole lot, but I'll just touch base real quick on them. Our real estate tax revenue, which is our largest source of revenue, came in about $70,000 higher than we were budgeting for. And that's not a surprise. That revenue, 98% of it is in prior to January 1. So COVID-19 had no effect on our real estate tax revenues for last year, but we did come in right at our 95%, which we typically budget for. We came in a little bit higher than that. So that's good news for the district. Really one area of revenue that did surprise me, because COVID-19 pretty much hit us, for the last quarter, March or April through June. Our earned income tax revenue, which is revenue we receive on earned income throughout our district, came in at just over $3.9 million, which was about $25,000 short of where we were budgeted for the year. So as of right now, we're, with the last 3 months of the school year and our tax collections, as a district, we did not really see any decrease. I mean, that number can fluctuate. Even a $25,000 less than budget, to me, would look like a normal year. I would have no concerns about that. But with COVID-19 kind of hitting us in those last 3 months, I was really shocked to see that collection come in that high. I know our Burke Commerce, who collects our taxes, they can sometimes be a month delayed in when they collect the tax and when they get it to us. So that's why we typically run our EIT tax collections out the whole way through July and August. We credit to the previous year, knowing that that money we're getting in those months is typically attributed to the previous school year. So that, to me, that was a surprise. I was shocked to see that number come in. It's good for the community. It's good for the district that number is still coming in pretty strong despite the unemployment. And kind of going in line with that, with also COVID-19, with those last 3 months, and real estate workers not really being able to do their job, properties, the courthouse being shut down, our real estate transfer tax came in at $351,000, which is about $10,000 under budget, but right where we normally are in a year. Again, I was kind of shocked to see that number come in where it did. And our delinquent real estate taxes came in at a little over $1.2 million, about $70,000 less than what we had budgeted for. So kind of numbers that I would have thought would have been more heavily affected by COVID-19 came in right where we were, right where we had budgeted them for. So
we were afraid those were really going to soften. I'd rather be safe than sorry, but this is a huge relief. It's a huge relief. It means that we can catch our breath.
Absolutely, yeah. I was, as those numbers were coming in July and August, I kind of was holding my breath to, make sure that they were real numbers and something wasn't going to happen. But we're a couple months out at this point, and I feel pretty confident that those numbers are going to stay where they're at. So it's, on the
so
revenue
we've
side,
turned lead into gold. That's what you're telling me. You're an alchemist. We've turned lead into gold, right?
That we have, yes.
Okay, that's what we want. I mean, are there any, on your expense side, is there anything that came in lower?
Certainly salaries and benefits, came in lower than budgeted. And some of that was just some normal, activities, teachers retiring during the school year, different things like that. But as soon as COVID-19 hit, we had some open positions at that point, aides, custodians that we were working on filling. But at that point, we didn't fill any of those positions. So we saved for almost 3 months, and we still didn't fill them until we're still working on filling them now, because all summer we didn't fill any of those full-time positions, not knowing how the school year was going to start, if we were going to start. So we saved money for those 3 months, plus over the summer a little bit. We also saved on overtime and subs during the shutdown because nobody worked any overtime. There was no need for it. And we didn't, if a custodian or somebody else was going to be off a day, we didn't need to bring in subs for them. And, those are some of the areas that, nobody was happy with COVID-19, but those were areas that we did save some money during the shutdown. Our medical insurance came in about $200,000 less than we had budgeted for. We did see a slight, rate decrease in the middle of the year because of some plan changes that took into effect. The high deductible plan increased January 1. So that saved us some money, and that's set by the IRS. There's no guarantee that that's ever going to happen, but that did save us a little bit on health insurance. And then with the savings in salary and benefits comes the savings in Social Security and retirement that are, a percentage of those. Some other big expense areas where we saved, just some of the utility costs went down. Probably our biggest savings, one of our biggest savings was just transportation between regular ed transportation, special ed, and the savings we had because we didn't have athletics in the spring. We had no bus transportation for any athletic events. One of our big areas we just saved, not necessarily, it's not tied to COVID-19, but last year we were budgeting for charter schools $1.1 million, and we are looking at probably that final bill coming in somewhere around $900,000. So, that's a pretty significant savings. And we talked about this at the beginning of the school year that we had a pretty large 12th grade class in 18-19 that a good many of those graduated outside of our charter schools, not involved directly with our Ideal program, but the outside charter schools. And we didn't have a huge increase in our numbers last year. And that's really accredited to, the Ideal program that is run both at the high school and at the elementary level of keeping those kids within our schools and not having that huge cost and being able to save on there. We also saw significant decreases last year in our outside placements. And that is whether it's alternative ed, whether that is special ed. So that's really attributed to, the administration, the teachers of working together to keep those kids in our schools instead of having to have them be educated in outside placements, which can be, rather costly to do that. So,
okay. Well, that's a pretty nice report, Jared. Yeah, I feel that the board a long time ago started to target where we would be on some of those Ideal costs and whatnot. We realized that was a place where we could probably improve. So it's really a tremendous thing for the administration to have been able to hand in these great numbers, and I thank you. I don't think we should squander it, though. That's for sure. It was hard earned this year, and I want to hear from Terry Kerr first, because it seems to me that we've got a huge deferred maintenance list, and this gives us some room to maneuver. So coming up in between the two committees coming forward into January, February, I think we have to think long and hard about how we're going to plan this budget going forward with Mike Vukovich so that we can start to really prioritize that list and perhaps do a larger than usual reserve into the deferred maintenance budget, the reserve budget. So that's my take on it. Terry, do you have anything to add or ask Jared? Please, I'll go through everybody.
No, I agree with what you just said. And then the only other thing, and not for this meeting, would be at some point, and Jared, if it's going to be an issue with is there an increase in expenditures dealing with cyber school and stuff due to COVID? So that could be a future agenda topic for this committee if it's warranted. That's all. Thanks, Julia.
Okay, thank you. Tammy Blank, do you have any questions to ask Jared at this time, just on this preliminary budget? I mean, these year-end numbers preliminaries.
No, not this time. Anyway, sorry. I unput my video to answer the question.
Okay, great. All right, so you don't have any questions. Thank you. Barb Barker, any questions or comments? Okay, let's move on. Barb, if you're there, I'll come back to you. Uta?
I don't have any questions, and sounds like really good news. So I think we do need to come up with a plan and be careful in how we spend those dollars.
Amen. Amen, Uta. Cinda Brode?
I have no questions. I agree. We need to be very careful how we spend it. And I'm very interested to see what the numbers are looking like for this year, because I think we do have a lot more expenses because COVID kind of sneaked in at the end of last year. So I'm more concerned about the numbers for this year.
Yeah, I am too. I just think Mike, you were able, and Jared, you were able to put kind of a SWAT team together pretty quickly to keep this budget from getting completely out of control. So it's paying real dividends now. But we still have to keep the foot on the gas pedal. Any other board members that I don't think Tamara Leeper's with us, or is she?
No, Madam Vice President, I don't believe she is.
Okay, anybody else want to comment about the preliminaries? Okay, so then we will expect a full report when your audit is done, or what's your schedule going to be, Jared, going forward for getting us the finals?
Yes, the auditors, they are coming in the week of October 12th for their first kind of to start their audit work. My hope is the final report to the state is due at the end of October. So we do, we can submit any corrections that we have after October once we get that in. But I would say by then the numbers are pretty much final unless there really is something major that the auditors recommend changes to. But easily by the end of October, we will have the final numbers. Like I said, the auditors are starting, they'll start their initial work, and then they'll finish the audit by late December.
Okay, and our next audit meeting would be what, October 19th or 26th?
26th.
Okay, good. Okay. And then when do you plan to have Kim come in?
She usually finishes the audit up in December, and then usually comes the meeting in January or December, or January or February.
Is there any way we can expedite that at all, or is that pretty much written in stone that she comes in that? I mean, is there any way we could get her in right, first meeting in December or something like that? Any chance? I'm not trying to push her, but sooner we.
I know that's overall that's a busy time because they're trying to finish up all their school audits. I mean, I can double check with her to see if she's available. I just don't know that our complete audit will be finalized by then.
Okay, well, let us know. Okay. That's great. All righty. The other thing I wanted to point out next on the agenda is, of course, we know that we paid off that junior high debt, million some dollars here, what, in August or September? So you handed us out, I want to keep us up to date on where, I couldn't print this out, this bond debt, the payoff, where we are now. So could you go over with us so the committee knows and the board knows where we are with our total outstanding on the remaining bonds, please?
Sure. Like you said, Madam Vice President, we paid off the last of the junior high bonds on September 1st. We also paid off the last of the new senior high gym bonds on September 1st as well. So those are two groups of bonds that we are now done with. And at the end of this year, our total debt stands at $28,548,000. Because at this point we've made all the bond payments. We will make interest payments in March and April, but we will not make any more principal payments until next September or late August. Our next set of bonds or group kind of projects that will be paid off is in 2022, September of 2022. We will start to pay off the bonds for the ESCO project that we took out in 2011, 2012. And then the following year, we'll pay off another group of those bonds in September of 2023.
Okay, those ESCO bonds really are like alchemy. I mean, it's been unreal. So when we pay those off, do we have an opportunity to re-engage?
We would have you'd have to look at doing another ESCO project if you wanted to. You certainly have that option.
So there's no rules that you have to wait a year or 2 years?
No.
You can, so we could introduce another project?
Yeah, not that I'm aware of. It would just be, are there things within the district that need to be done that would save you money to validate an ESCO project? We took care of a lot of that stuff back in 2012, and I think we had them look again a couple years ago because the board was having discussions on, are there things to save money that we could do another ESCO project? And I don't believe at the time there was any major ticket item in place that was needed for that or would validate another ESCO project.
Jared, The only asterisk I'd like to put on that is with the price of LED lighting now, it won't be as spectacular as the last lighting project, but it may be worth looking into. And the fluorescents that we did put in are going to start to fail. So the LED would be the only thing that I would think might warrant an ESCO project.
With this kind of savings, we ought to find something, Mr. Kerr. I mean, this is too. I mean, we essentially made no bond payments because that's what we were saving, correct?
Yes, that's the point of the ESCO project. Yep, the guarantee is basically you will be able to save the money that equals your bond payments.
Yeah, okay. So you'll alert us about 60 days before we have to start thinking about that, because we just don't come up with it overnight. But if we can put something together, I think maybe we should. And I don't know to what extent they look at your reserves. I have no idea how the formula works, but at some point, at some committee meeting, maybe in our November committee meeting, maybe we could start the discussion, or at the very latest, then it's Christmas, maybe January. My other question is, you said 2 bonds were paid off. So the 1.1 million that just went out the door, that was for 2 different series?
The 1.1 million, no, that was just for the junior high refinance. And then we had another payment of 317,000 we made the exact same day for the new senior high gym that was being paid off.
So are you saying that gym is paid off?
It is, yes. There are no.
Oh, Tom, you should be clapping. That's wonderful. Okay, I'm in a good mood. I think this is great. I mean, we've had we've had a tough year, but when you get news like this, that our head is well above water here. So that's really a credit to the faculty or the administration. Thank you very much. Any questions for Jared along these lines? So everybody's really, really stunned. We don't have any questions.
No, I agree. I think it's just great news. I think, the fact that we have now the junior high and the senior high projects paid off, that's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the ability to breathe again. We can actually plan for the future. We can get past, there's going to be a day when we won't have the pandemic to be such a threat to us, surely. I mean, it's probably going to be later than sooner, but nevertheless, it's good to stay in good shape, because I'm sure there's a lot of districts that have been just slammed. So thank goodness. What time does our executive session start, Mike Vukovic?
6:30, Madam Vice President.
Okay, so it's about 6:20 now. Have we covered everything, Jared, that we wanted to get through?
Yes, ma'am. That was all that was on the agenda.
Okay, anything for the good of the order, anything at all? Cheer us up again. Somebody come up with something funny, something happy. Give us a happy story here. Mr. Vukovic, give us a happy ending, a really happy ending.
Despite my first 3 years encountering a pandemic, county tax assessment appeal, and some other issues, we've shown our worth and mettle, and working as a team, we were able to save the district $1.5 million in what other people haven't been able to do or could not do in current climate. So I'm proud of this team, and I'm proud of the work that we did, and hopefully the committee is as well.
All right, very good. Okay, so I'll see it. Anything else? Truly, I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to rush us, but we got to get through this stuff. So we have.
I'm proud of the fact that our school is still open this week and hasn't needed a deep cleaning.
Congratulations to the administration and the faculty and the students for keeping it open.
Oh yes, definitely.
Let's keep going.
Yeah. No, I feel huge relief at this point. I really do. And I was standing today in the locker room at the YMCA because, as you know, I'm a swimmer, and I heard these 2 seniors come in who are on the YMCA swim team, and they said that they had joined the forensics team. I don't know who they were, but I started laughing because the one said, "Do you know what forensics is?" The other one said, "No, I don't know, but I think there's a lot of nice people." I took that to mean in the forensics team. So I walked around the corner. I said, "It used to be debate. I don't know what they do now in forensics, but so it's nice to see students are starting to think about their future and what they want to do, and they're talking about the forensics team. So it's all good. Thank you. Thank you. See you soon.